Most people think that welding basic practice plates can get boring, but we are going to turn this into a wild and crazy joint that's going to challenge you, test your skills, but give you something beautiful when you finish it. Like I said, this is a basic welding coupon. This is 3.2 millimeters in thickness, or 1/8 of an inch. You can see the dimensions and alloy type on the screen here. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly the same as this, just a ballpark. Now, what I am doing here is starting out with my plate layout. What I'm essentially doing is laying out a three-sided triangle with each side equal length. We need all of these to be exactly the same when you cut and prep them, and you're gonna need 16 of these to do this project here. So you can see I have laid them out on the plate like this. I can get 3 out of each plate. I have a little bit of waste material, but that's all good. I'm gonna keep it for scrap for something else. And I'm just gonna use the bandsaw, super simple. I'm just using some cutting fluid here. I'm spraying it on the blade to make the blade cut a lot smoother, and it'll help to keep my lines straight. Now, when you're doing all your cuts here, making your cuts nice and straight is very important. If your cuts get a little bit out of straightness and you have to buzz them down with a belt sander a little more than you should, what this is going to do is affect your fit up when we put it together later. So the more bang on you can keep these things when running them across the bandsaw, this is going to help you when you start to fit everything up later. Now, the next thing I'm going to do here is fire up my belt sander. This is a pretty fine grit here, and all that I'm doing is I'm just flattening out the cuts that I just made. I want to take the majority of the bandsaw marks out of the cuts, and again, I don't want to take too much when I'm shaving a little bit off these things. Like I said, I want them to all be as consistent as possible so we can use them with good accuracy when we put them together. After I've done the whole pile, I'm now going to decontaminate the first time. The first thing I'm starting with here is a lacquer thinner first. This stuff's a little more aggressive for taking all kinds of really deep stuff and grease and oils and stuff off the surface. So I'm going to make sure I clean thoroughly with this, and you can see on the rag how dirty things get. It's well worth it to take your time to clean things up now. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare each joint edge with a wire brush. Now, some people have seen me do this before. Check it out. I take an obsessive amount of time to prep my edges. You can see I'm using a ruler here, and I'm just wire brushing each edge. This helps to create a nice organized looking welding lane. It definitely takes a little more time to do, but trust me, it pays off in the end. You can see here when it's all done, it looks really good. This is gonna be great to weld. Now again, I'm gonna decontaminate one more time. That's right, even after all the wire brushing, we wanna make sure everything is totally clean. I'm using acetone this time. You can see even after decontaminating a second time how dirty these things still are. When it comes to cleaning, prep, and decontamination, I take this stuff really seriously if you can't tell. Take the time with this kind of stuff at these steps here. Your work is gonna thank you for it later. And also, I decontaminate my filler rods, always. You can see here I'm cleaning this one. Look at this filthy animal right here. Like I said, everybody, I am obsessive with how I do things here, but it pays off after. Wait for it. Okay, now we are gonna start tacking these things together. As I fire up my machine here, you can see I'm using the Everlast Typhoon 230. This machine is dope. I've had this machine for a couple years now. I love it. You can see the settings I'm working with here, nothing crazy at all. You can pause and write these down, or you can screenshot this if you want. Now, taking a look at our thing here, you can see that there is 3 sections we have to put together here. There's these 2 pyramids on the bottom, and then there's this one diamond shaped looking thing that has to balance in between these 2. So the first thing I'm gonna do is tack together the little pyramids. And then after that, I'm gonna assemble the diamond. Now, when you are putting this together, I always wanna make sure I do my tacking at the ends or the starts of whatever passes are gonna go on it later. Never throw tacks in the middle of one of your passes. That's a big no-no. After you get things kind of assembled and it's a bit more secure and not rocking around on your table all awkward, then what I usually do is I go ahead and apply a little bit more filler material on my tacks. Again, put them on your starts and your stops. Do not put them in the middle of a welding pass that has to go over it later. You can see that I'm slightly bending and correcting my angles with a square here. I want to check this and make it as best as I can now. And again, this is just in the thinking that it's going to help out with overall assembly later. Now, these are all ready to weld. Check it out. Looking at these pieces here, all ready to go. How would you go about welding this? We've got a lot of different ways we can go about putting this thing together and welding it out. But if we were to tack all 3 pieces together now, it would give us some really awkward angles to try and weld out some of these passes. And some of these corners will be put together. We wouldn't even be able to weld all the joints. So what I'm going to do is I'm start welding things out in a little pre-assembly, 1 piece at a time. Just as tacking went, we're going to start with the small pyramids first. Now, doing these joints, obviously we are doing outside corner joints. This is the configuration we have to weld out here. You can see in my textbook textbook here, I break this all down. When we arc up, we have to have a perfect start. When we are welding an outside corner joint, the amount of filler material that we are using is crucial. We don't want to overfill, we definitely don't want to underfill. And then as we move along the welding joint, we want to monitor that everything has a consistent stepping distance. You can see here, the distance in between each step is pretty consistent to one another. And as I am approaching the end of each joint, I am controlling the heat near the end. Now, here's the thing about these little triangles that may mess with you. You can see from the little configuration here that each piece is tapered towards the end no matter which way we go. Now obviously choosing this one, I'm gonna head towards the top of each pyramid and I'm gonna connect everything with a little button on top when I finish each pass, but you're really gonna have to monitor how hot these things are getting as you're welding them as you approach the end of each welding pass. I recommend backing off the heat slightly and increasing the amount of filler material a little bit. This is gonna help you to keep control of your overall welding profile or shape near the end of each pass when it's getting hot. After you finish each weld, I recommend cooling things down. You can see here I'm doing a little dunk in a thing of water, and because I have two different pyramids to weld, I'm just gonna put that one aside for it to cool down. I'm gonna grab the next one and I'm gonna weld a couple passes on that one. I also wanna make sure that I'm completely comfortable and I can see clearly when I'm welding each one of these things out. After I finish each pass, I'm making sure I hold still so that my post flow protects my tungsten while it's still cooling down. Now I mentioned how important it was to really monitor the amount of filler material that you're using for each pass, and this matters for every single step that you take when doing this joint. Again, this is covered in my new hardcover textbook right here. Make sure to pick up one of these textbooks. The link is in the description below. Go check it out after this video. Now, both these pyramids are looking pretty good. They are all finished up. We can see that the amount of filler material looks pretty good for each pass that we did. And now I'm just gonna go on and do the exact same thing with the diamond piece. You can see I got a little jig or a fixture here. I'm gonna put the piece into that. It's gonna help keep it solid and keeping it held still while I weld it. And I can remain comfortable and see clearly. When we get welding on this one, we pretty much want the exact same details we saw on the last pieces. We really want to focus on good starts. We want everything to blend into the exact profile as far as the amount of heat in relation to the amount of filler that I'm using right at the start. And honestly, most of the hard work is done right at the beginning here. Once you get rolling with it, all you have to do is kind of babysit and maintain. The distance of stepping is really big with this one as well. Now looking at the pyramid here, I'm going to take into consideration which directions I want to go with my welding. I'm going to plan to head all of my welding towards one end specifically. What's really important with this exercise, and this is the thing that most people could stand to gain a lot of practice with, is it's really going to cause you to focus on properly starting and connecting all of your passes without leaving any gaps or voids in between each one. And I'm going to plan so each finish that I do is going to finish around the end so I can tie everything together with one final dab at the end. All right, and now I'm getting ready to do the final pass around the outside. And again with this one, the exact same deal. I'm controlling the same variables as all the other passes that I've done so far. Our goal is to make all of these different welds look consistent so that all passes look like they are matching. I want strategic starts, properly wrapping each corner. And I realized something just as I was about to finish this last pass here. Whoops! When you have a sealed compartment that you are about to weld and completely seal up, hot air is inside of it and it's going to be expanding. Remember this episode here? Check this out. This was an episode where I was welding these sealed pipes. When you get towards the end of it, there is going to be this problem right here. This is called blowback. This is again where all the hot air inside of a sealed unit is pouring out at the end because it has nowhere else to go. It's going to mess up your gas flow. It's going to blow filler everywhere. It sucks. Does everybody remember from that episode what I do to take care of this problem? It's 2 words. Can you remember? It's all good if you can't. It's something called a weep hole. All I'm gonna do is pick a spot to drill one of these weep holes. Looking at this piece here, I kind of like this side. I want this side to be the top here. So the underside is where it's gonna be a little more inconspicuous. You can see right here, I'm just getting it positioned. I'm putting a little punch in it so my drill bit doesn't wander. And I'm just drilling a little hole in it so that the hot air is gonna vent out of this instead of the end of my last welding pass. Take the time to do this or you'll be sorry. Doing my last pass here, let's go. Stepping along, same deal, good amount of heat, good amount of filler, nice little button on the end. There we go. Now, these look awesome, all welded up. I'm super stoked on them so far, and it is time to assemble them into the final structure. It might be a little tricky to position and have it held solid, so you can see I'm using a couple little blocks here. I'm gonna add some good filler material and make sure that these things hold tight, because you can see here, I have to do a little bit of flexing and alignment to keep everything straight. And I've got my little boy here in the shop watching to make sure everything I do is done as a good job. I'm taking the time to make sure everything's lined up straight, but these tacks are all placed in convenient spots, so I'm gonna have my stop starts placed right on them. Again, I never want to put my tacking in the middle of a pass. Put it either at a start or a stop or both. And then these joints here, to finish this one up, is just a regular fillet joint. They're in a bit of an awkward position, but let's do it. Again, I'm going to position it with blocks if I need to. I just want to make sure that I'm comfortable. And then at this point, I'm getting set up. I'm just laying down fillet welds. Again, referring to my book here, there's a couple things that we want to look for with a fillet joint. We want equal leg lengths on each side of the fillet joint. Controlling the shape and profile is going to be very important with these. We want to use the right amount of filler material. We don't want to overfill and we don't want to underfill. We want something right in between. Again, we want all of our stop starts to connect properly, and we want the stepping distance that we're going to do to be really consistent. Again, all these details are in this textbook here. As I'm welding along here, you can see that the amount of filler material I'm using is pretty much bang on for the amount of heat that I'm using. I do have to hit these with a little bit more heat. I want to make sure that when I finish each pass, I'm going to be able to position it so I can properly wrap each corner. Now another one, here's some more homework for you guys. Do you remember this lesson here? This isn't about the fillet joint lesson. This is about properly wrapping and connecting the corners around fillet joints. This exercise here teaches you how to properly do this. Again, I'll put the link for both of these episodes I'm referring to in the description below. Go watch them. And with our fillet joints, all we want is the exact same thing here. We want consistent stepping. We want good filler amount in relation to the heat that we're using. And we want the leg lengths to be equal on each side of the joint. I'm planning every stop and start that I'm doing, and I'm making sure that I tie everything up with a nice little button. And again, I want these buttons to be hidden on the other side so you're not going to see them later. Doing the same thing here on the other side. Good heat, good filler, making sure I'm comfy. I'm feeding from a good angle here. Like seriously, take a look at my hand here. It's like effortless. I'm feeding from a fixed position. My hand is well out of my vision. I can see everything clearly. Again, this all comes back to comfort and posture. We learn this stuff with good technique early on in my book here. Again, heading towards the end of this one, I'm just slowly controlling the heat, and I end with a nice little button on the end of each pass, and there we go. I am stoked on this one. Let's check it out. Look at this thing. This is pretty. Come on, people. It has all kinds of outside corner work that is symmetrical to each side. Everything is organized with consistent stepping distance. We don't have anything that looks out of place. We can see the fillet joints are tucked in there nicely, looking pretty consistent as well. And the biggest thing, remember all the time we took earlier in the episode to properly wire brush our stuff? Look at how well organized wire brushing sets off the look of all of your welds when they are consistent. You got clean welding and you got clean wire brushing all the way around it. Everything complements each other. Again, if you're working on any projects like this that you know won't get painted or might not get painted, they stay raw aluminum, the time you took earlier to properly prepare these with good looking edges with your wire brushing just looks fantastic when it's done. Super organized. You guys pick up one of these books. They have all kinds of good information on aluminum TIG welding as well as a full program. You scan the QR code, you get access to a bunch of videos to follow along with the book as well as chat with all of us in the private community there. I've got free lessons on my website. There's those 2 episodes down in the description below. Go watch those for free. And do a random act of kindness for a stranger today. I am Dusty James. Fill and chill. We will talk soon. Peace.